Teens who use social media from a very young age are more in danger of developing a mental health disorders and future addictive behaviors. Exposure to these ideals of experience could cause teens to develop binge eating behaviors and body image disorder. Over 24.4% of teens are social media addicts. Teens often use up to 3 to 8 hours of screen time a day.
Social media promised community but delivered comparison. Endless scrolling fuels anxiety, depression, and a constant pressure to be perfect. Likes become currency, follows a measure of worth. And behind the filters, a silent epidemic of low self-esteem. Studies show that a direct link between screen time and declining mental health in teens. Sleep suffers, focus fades, real relationships take a backseat.
How do you think social media affects students and applies focus to engage in class?
I think that social media causes students to constantly be thinking about what's going on social media, so then they're distracted and they can't focus on what's happening in class. And I think that, like, the thought of, like, oh, what is so-and-so posting, or I'm feeling like a buzz in my pocket, I'm getting an alert from Snapchat or Instagram or like whatever it might be, causes them to be distracted, and then they're like, all that they can think about is like, I need to check my phone, I need to check my phone, I need to check my phone, instead of focusing on what they should be focused on in school.
Yeah. What do you think the biggest negative effects are on social media's, like, students' mental health and how it affects their social skills?
I think the biggest one for me that I've seen is that, like, what's posted on social media isn't always what's actually happening in real life. And so you see people's, like, ideal life and just the, like, good parts of what's going on. And so then it negatively affects other students or people because they think, like, oh, well, their life is so good, why isn't mine like that? And so they start getting down on themselves, even though that's not actually true, or it's not actually like the real life of me or you or whoever's posting on social media necessarily. And then I think that social media can be also used to say or post or do things that students wouldn't normally say or do in real life. So it's kind of like hiding behind a wall, and you get to like hide behind that wall. And so I've seen like social media bullying or students posting or saying things about other students, but they would never actually say it to someone's face. Yeah.
Do you think like social media has affected you in some ways?
I think so. The biggest example is like seeing like my peers or friends or people I went to school with or whatever, posting things about their life. And if I'm not in that same situation, sometimes it affects the way that I feel about where I am in my own life. But it's hard to take a step back and think like their life is different than mine. I'm right where I'm supposed to be. So I think with students, there's a similar thing going on too. Mm-hmm. So I think social media affects everybody. So my sister, this is her social media, right? And you see all of these like beautiful, wonderful things that she's doing and all these trips that she's like taking, and you know, it looks like, oh, you're in college and you're doing all these cool things and you're traveling the world and you're going to museums and skiing and snowboarding and whatever it might be, and you have this like amazing Instagram. But I would use this as the like first example of social media is not always what it actually is in real life, because you don't see the behind the scenes of like her working 70 hours a week in order to afford to go on the trips, or her friends getting upset with her because they're like, oh, you're never around, you're never like able to hang out and do things because you're always working. And she's like, well, if I don't work, I can't afford to do this. So you don't see those like negative sides or the hard parts of people's life. You're just seeing like the
We're back with more of our special event, Kids in Crisis Screen Time. And it is time to hear from the kids themselves.
Yeah, how do they feel about their devices and the time they spend on them? NBC's Kate Snow is here with that part of the story. Hi, Kate.
Hi, good morning, guys. By the age of 15, 86% of kids have a smartphone, according to Common Sense Media. And the U.S. Surgeon General says 95% of teens, 13 to 17, are using social media. There are a lot of positives, right? Connecting with friends, for example, but there are also some very real risks.
Heather, do you think we should have more rules on social media use at home and during meals or before?
During meals, I feel like there shouldn't be any phones at the table because you're present with your family. It depends on what activities you're doing at home. Like if you're spending time with your family, there should be no phones. But if you're alone, I feel like it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
How much time do you spend on social media?
When I'm not working, I don't even know. We'll go with 5 hours when I'm not working. When I am working, maybe 4, 3. I go on TikTok a lot.
Do you think being on social media affects how anxious and stressed you are?
Yes, because of my algorithm. Like when I'm in a bad mood, my algorithm knows it for somehow, and then it puts me in a worse mood.
Do you think there should be more guidelines and ages for social media?
Yes. I feel like 13 years old is an okay age for some social medias to join, and then certain ages you shouldn't be able to experience that certain kinds of content till you're 18.
Okay. How do you decide what is appropriate to post?
For me, when I post, I don't post anything super personal. I just go with trends. I just post with trends, honestly.
Okay, that's it. Thank you.
How much time do you spend on your phone a day?
If I'm not busy at all, 6 to 7 hours. If I have almost my full day planned, then usually 2 to 3 hours.
Have you ever felt anxious, sad, or stressed because something you did on social media or saw?
Yes.
Which social media platforms do you use mostly in a day?
TikTok and messages.
And why is that?
TikTok because I have an addiction, horrible addiction to Star Wars videos. And messages because I have 237 unopened messages.
And how do you feel when your posts don't get as many views or likes on it as you thought it would?
Oh, I don't care at all.
Emily, how much time do you think you spend on social media a day?
Too much.
Could you give me a general number?
Depends on if I'm working or not. If I'm working, probably 2 hours. If I'm not, 4.
Which social media platform do you use the most?
TikTok, Snapchat.
Do you ever think social media could help or worsen your anxiousness, your sadness, or your stress?
I think it actually depends on the app because everybody acts differently on each app. So Snapchat I'm fine with, but if I go to the comment sections on TikTok or Instagram, I get a little anxious.
Does it make you feel like they're shaming you?
Not anymore because I don't post enough for that, but I see arguments in the comments and stuff, and it's just not something that should be on social media.
Okay. Do you worry about what personal information you share?
No, I don't share a lot.
Nice. Okay, that's it.
Go. How much time do you think you spend on social media each day?
About 8 hours.
Okay, any certain one?
Probably TikTok and Snap.
Why TikTok?
Because it's something to do.
Do you think social media changed the way you communicate with your family?
Yes.
In what ways?
I don't communicate with them because I'm too busy on TikTok.
Oh, okay. Has those apps ever made you feel anxious, stressed, or upset?
Sometimes, yes.
Is it because of certain videos or?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel when you post something and you don't get as much likes?
Frustrated.
Okay. Do you feel more connected or more distant from friends and families because of social media?
It could go either or. because of some days they like my videos and some days I don't even exist.
Do you think you spend less quality time with people because of social media?
I would say yes.
Okay. Do you worry about personal information you're sharing online?
No, because I don't share that much personal things about my life.
How do you decide what is appropriate to post about yourself?
If I think it's like wrong or something, I don't post it.
What in your categories are wrong?
Just stuff that makes me uncomfortable.
Okay. Have you ever experienced or witnessed online bullying or harassment?
Yes.
Okay. Social media each day.
About 6 hours.
Does it change depending on how busy you are?
Yeah.
Okay, which ones do you use the most?
Mostly Snap,
Why Snapchat?
because that's where all my friends are texting me, and there's like, it's pretty much like TikTok, Messenger, and everything all in one, so.
Okay. Has any social media ever made you feel anxious, stressed, or sad?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you ever think social media affects your self-esteem or how you view yourself?
Absolutely.
In what ways?
Body postures and everything, like being healthy, exercising stuff, just seeing a bunch of people who are skinny, and it's like, I just personally am not that, so.
How do you decide what is appropriate to post about yourself?
Mostly stuff that's with friends. I don't usually post by myself.
Okay. Have you ever experienced someone bullying you online about your body or anything else?
Yes.
Okay. How did that affect you emotionally?
I think I deleted a bunch of social media for a long time.
Took a break from it?
Yeah.
Did it affect your depression?
Oh yeah.
What made you come back?
I think it was just the fact that I don't usually text friends or anything. It's just more like, if I use Snapchat, it's easier to just snap them instead of actually making a conversation.
Okay.
What are the most common issues you see in teens using social media?
I would say the most common issues I see with teens are like online bullying, where they use kind of means of like commenting on photos or maybe direct messaging, things that they would be willing to like say or do not face to face. So bullying would be one, sexting or sextortion, so using explicit images as a mean for some kind of gains, whether that would be financial gains, whether that would be maybe leverage on social issues, things like that. And then I would say it's some mental health stuff. So like there's a lot of comparison, so like self-esteem stuff that I think girls deal with social media, along with maybe people seeing kind of the good parts of other people's lives and like comparing. I think that contributes a lot to some mental health stuff.
And then, have you seen social media contribute to risky behaviors with teens, and do you believe it'll get better?
I would say yes, and I would connect that more to the sextortion stuff, like the willingness to send nudes to people without like knowing the long-term consequences. So that's a risky behavior, and I think oftentimes it's misunderstood how it really can affect people's life, and how like when we desensitize ourselves to sending nudes, like what's the next like risk or behavior that you would choose to do. And then tell me the second part of your question again.
Do you believe that it could get better within time?
I don't really see that anything changing unless we implement, I guess, restrictions on how technology is used with our youth, and I'm not really sure what that would exactly look like. I think like as parents in general, it's kind of in the parents' hands to make sure that they're monitoring and staying knowledgeable about like what's on their kid's phone, just because it accesses everything. And I think One thing that me and Mr. Hoffarth have talked about is that you go through all this training with like driving. You have to like do so many hours behind the wheel. You have to take a test, all that stuff, to make sure you're safe on the roads and ready to drive a car. But then we give you a device that has access to every single piece of content that you'd want to, or interactions with people. So yeah, until we put kind of like restrictions down, I don't really see things changing. Yeah.
Okay.
So, how do you see social media affect kids nowadays?
It's a pretty generalized question. I think statistically they say kids are on their phone for 5 to 7 hours per day, which is a huge amount. And I think it affects their mental health. I think it affects everybody's mental health, but young people more than most, because it actually blocks some of the growth, the mental challenges they can make by not being on their phone, by having normal conversations, by reading books, by learning stuff the old-fashioned way. I think TikTok videos and the such, I think it kind of stymies mental growth and affects their mental health, and I think that's where I'm at.
How do you see social media affect me?
You? I think it's affected your attitude at points. I think you're affected by what you see and how much time you spend on your phone. Sometimes it affects your sleep. Sometimes it affects the way you talk to people, I think.
Do you think it affected me socially at all?
Yes. I think it might have stunted your social growth just a tiny bit. Although you are a social human being, you get that from your mother and father, but I do think it's affected you a little bit, yes.